Can you have magic in a Christian novel? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about that today. Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey toward publication. I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fantasy.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
And welcome to the show this week, everybody. We're so glad that you're all here, whether you're listening to us live, listening to us as a podcast via Apple or Spotify or YouTube, like all of them out there. We're there. We really appreciate you. But wherever you are, if you would like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. It helps other Christian writers find this show and to be able to connect with other Christian writers. But if you're here live, we appreciate you too. Right now, it's kind of a slow morning, which I get. It was a slow morning for me as well. But we have SL pairing with us already. Good morning, SL. I had a good morning today. I got up early. I had my devotions early. I thought I'm going to have all this extra time. And I don't know what happens on Friday. The next thing I know, I'm like, oh no, I'm late. So anyway, all right, we're going to start with our favorite part. It's not our favorite, but it's an okay part, I guess, of the show, our What's Up. I feel like I'm just like too far into like saying things that I always say. So let's just take a step back, Jen. What's up, Tina? What's up with you this week?
Well, I didn't do a whole lot of writing this week, even though I had every intention to. So I need to work on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did writing. Well, I shouldn't say that. I just heard Becca yelling at me.
Becca Syme, for those of you that don't know.
Saying, thinking is working. I did a lot of thinking about it. And I did a lot of reworking things in my head. But I didn't actually type anything. So that's what I meant by.
Gotcha.
Do you have some kind of a goal you're trying to meet? Like, what is the pressure? Where is the pressure? You have like a deadline for finishing it? Oh.
That's probably the problem. Because, like, I'm a procrastinator. And then when something's due, then I'll do it like the night before.
So about the word procrastinate, I was talking to my friend Kim and I'm like, I don't understand this word procrastinate because it sounds like it'd be a good thing because it has pro at the beginning. And I don't. So anyway, she kind of went on this little dive and I guess like the rest of the word procrastinate has something to do with like tomorrow. So you're actually like for tomorrow. And I'm like, so Annie's whole theme song was pro tomorrow. It was pro procrastination.
I've always loved that song. That's probably why. Well, you know,
I'll work on my book tomorrow.
I have this writing group thing that's has to be submitted by a certain date. So that's
okay.
It'll be done by the date. What the 7,000 words I need to write, but right now they're just being rewritten in my head over and over again.
Well, 7,000 words is not that many word sprints for you. So, I mean, I know that sounds like a lot for a lot of people, but once you put your fingers to the keyboard, it should be okay, right?
Yeah, and at this moment, I don't feel any pressure. It's just that I had to report.
Yeah, you had to have some sort of what's up. So it's like,
I can tell you about my granddaughter, who I babysat on Thursday, and my husband came home at like 4:00. She was still here, and oh my gosh, my husband comes in the door, and she screams, "Grandpa!" and she runs across the room with her arms out to give him a hug, and then she started jumping up and down and just screeching. And she was so excited to see her grandpa. And I'm like, that's it. I'm leaving for like 2 hours and coming back so that when I come in the door, maybe I'll get her. Because, usually I'm already there when she comes over. And it's like, hi, Grandma. You got any bacon?
Got any bacon? That's it. That's all she cares about. Oh, that's awesome.
That was my week.
So I did a little bit of, working on the book cover and little things that I just have to do to get ready for the book launch this week. But one thing I did, and I didn't do it until last night, and I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I sat down with a new notebook, love new notebooks, and
Mm.
I wrote a list of things that I want to be true in my life.
Nice.
And it was me and God sat down, and I wrote down things, and I'm not going to share them all because some of them are things very personal. But they are things that like I say I want, or that in my mind I want, but the priority is like either not there. And mostly it's things about myself. Like I'm going to keep promises I make to myself. I want to be a person who values their body and, is and feeds it the right things. I want to be healthy, and so that means, I'm going to prioritize exercise. Even putting down that I want to be a woman who puts God first in everything, which I feel like I do, but actually saying it helped me to I don't know, to like really like make it a promise, if that makes sense. Instead of just being like, yeah, I do that. Like it's like a promise I made to myself. And I included my writing career in there. There's a few things I put in there about my writing career. So I think that's why this morning I woke up different. I woke up knowing I have this list of things that I want to be and things that I want to be true in my life. And the only way things that are going to be true in your life is if you do them. Right. And so I guess that's my what's up is I made a list, and I don't think I've ever
That's
been
awesome.
happier about a list.
I'm a fan of lists, especially those kind of lists.
Yeah.
I like to look through my prayer journal and I find a lot of lists.
Mm-hmm.
It's really crazy. Like sometimes it'll be like what I'm going to do today.
Mm.
Which seems kind of weird to put in a prayer journal, but I feel like if that's what keeps popping into my mind, like what should I do today?
Mm-hmm.
It's more like priority kind, because God kind of like had me do some prioritization after I
Right.
got out of the hospital. I feel like the lists come from Him.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so my plan is every night before bed to pull out that list and reread it. And I read it this morning too. And then to spend time with like one part of the list and to pray over it and to look at his word for like, what does it mean if I say that I want to be a person who values their health, or I don't remember how I worded it. Well, what does that mean scripturally too? And what are the things that I have to like give to God, and things that I also then the other things that I have to like to be accountable for, because we have free will, and he gives us a life to live, right? So there's a balance there between trusting him in certain things and then doing the work you have to do, right? And that's not just health, that's our careers, that's just our personal lives with each other. And so yeah, so my plan is every night to like focus on one part of my list, and I'm sure the list will grow or change, and some of the things I'll look back and be like, why did I even care about that then? I don't know. So anyway,
What prompted this exercise was what provoked you to do that?
that's probably a story for another day, I guess. I am I feel like I'm kind of on the edge of a I don't want to say stage in life, but God's just been moving me. Yes, God's been moving me in a lot of different ways, and I thought it was time to like stop waiting for things to happen and start like making like choices and deciding that I'm not going to wait. It's going to start today. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Appreciate that. SL Parent put her what's up in the chat. She says she's helping clean out the RV pass-through for a water heater repair. She got to sort through her book bins and donate books she hasn't missed for years. Oh, such a good feeling to get something like that. Like, you don't realize the weight of just having extra stuff around until you get rid of it. Isn't that strange?
Yeah. I did that with books too. Like when my aunt passed away and moved in here, I inherited all her books, and then I had all my books, and there just wasn't space. Like you have to start looking at like what is more important to me, the peace that a clean home comes with, or that like some breathing space comes with, or holding on to these books that I've never read. Some of them, like I think I'm going to get to, and I didn't. So I totally get it. I totally get that. SL.
I have trouble getting rid of books because then
Me
when I
too.
get my library with the rolling ladder, what am I going to put in it if I give away all my books?
But see, that's the beauty of it, Tina, is when you get that library, that's when we get to go like thrifting or to old bookstores and find like old versions of those books, or
I love it when you go to a thrift store and there's like a book and the pages are yellowed at the edge because they're so old and they smell like an old book. And
okay, but guess what I learned this week? I'm glad we brought, I don't know how this came up, but I saw a video. It was a little short reel, and they said every time I thrift a book, and they took books and put them in a plastic bag and stuck them in their freezer. And I was like, what? I didn't even think about that books could have bugs in them and different, like, I was like, shut up, because I have thrifted books before and brought them home. But yeah, now I'm all like grossed out. Like bed bugs can be in books. Oh,
there's more than just bookworms in the books.
yeah, right.
Wow.
Oof. Is that where that comes from? The term bookworm? Were there really
I don't
worms?
know.
Yeah, I've seen books that have been eaten by bookworms.
What?
Well,
oh wow. Okay.
You know, the end term now is that instead of being a bookworm, you're a book dragon. I really like that better, and I think it goes with our topic today.
It sure does go with our topic. I was going to go off on tangent about worms, but let's I definitely would rather move on. So today we are, as Tina alluded to,
we haven't gotten Jamie's what's up yet.
Oh, Jamie.
I was going to just let it go, but okay. One moment.
It's a show and tell.
We got a show and tell?
Love it.
Yes.
When she has show and tells.
Okay, so
Kurt.
Nope, not Kurt. This I thrifted, and I'm on the fence about painting the frame, but I really love this.
Aww.
Now, it's not any kind of an original or anything like that. I guess it was a pretty popular print, like back in the olden days before the internet, the 80s or something like that. But I saw it and I was like, I really like that piece. And so I brought it home with me, and it was not expensive. And now the question is just whether or not I want to do something with that frame. So that's it for today.
For those of you that are listening and not watching, it looks like a pencil drawing of a little girl blowing a dandelion. Which I love all art with dandelion images. I did with Photoshop with my middle daughter when she was like 18 months old. We were at my parents' house, and she had on this like yellow and blue dress, and their yard was full of dandelions, mostly yellow ones, and she's picking them. And then there was like, she's blowing on the ones that were like, mature. And I did like a collage with them, and I just love that. Like, so since then, every time I see dandelions, it makes me think of my middle daughter. So awesome.
Yeah, I picked it up because lately I've been thinking about how I was as a child before I had cares about like providing my food and clothing and stuff like that. And I just am remembering that I was like not in a hurry. In fact, I was really like a dawdling child, and my mother would just get on my case about it. And so frequently recently, I've had to remind myself to slow down because there isn't any reason to be in a hurry, just randomly. Like if I'm going to the grocery store, or like I don't have any kind of a deadline on whatever mission I'm on, like getting gas in the car. There's nobody like, when are you going to be done getting the gas in the car? Why do I feel like I have to like rush around? It's so anxiety creating to always feel like you have to be in a hurry. And so anyway, that picture just reminded me of just like, yeah, who were you when you were that age? Which is what attracted me to the piece, because the girl is not at all concerned about anybody with a deadline for her or anything. She's just enjoying blowing the seeds out. In fact, I remember when someone told me, that's spreading dandelions to everybody's yard. And it took all the magic of the flying dandelion fluff. And it's like, you want to go back to the time before there was people in your life giving you those messages. So as much as possible, if you can steal those moments, that's what makes life good, I think.
I agree.
And I saw this lady online that brought back the magic of the dandelions because her neighbors reported her to the city for something stupid.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, I'm going to go around the neighborhood and pick all the dandelions and blow the seeds in her yard.
Oh, that's petty, but I'm not saying I'm against it or that I'm angry about it.
I just thought it was very creative.
Not saying that we aren't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The lady was complaining about the lady's garbage cans being unsightly or something. And she's like, so the city's making me move my garbage cans, but I'm painting a mural of them on the side of my house.
Oh, my word. I'm telling you, there is something there's something beautiful about living out in the country where nobody cares. Almost nobody cares. Like do what it's your yard. Who cares? Like that's how far out in the country I live. So
I'm not
again, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I am not an HOA person. I do not care enough about my lawn to be an HOA person. I more power to y'all who have your houses that all look the same and everything. That's why I won't be a villager. I just cannot care enough about weeds. I just don't.
Yeah. Agreed.
My husband says the weeds keep people from breaking in our house because they think we have nothing.
Oh, interesting.
He lets them grow up. Well, we have mostly clover, though, so we get those blue flowers, and then my granddaughters go out there and pick them and bring them to me.
The poverty keeps people from breaking into my house because they think I have nothing. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not like we have much of anything. It's just
right.
Like let's try to look like we don't have money to take care of our yard. Like, okay. But again, he goes out there every Sunday and mows it because we have church here. So it's like feast or famine with him. I don't know.
All right. So today's actual topic is we are talking about faith-fueled world building. What does a Christian magic system look like? So for like the big idea of what we want to talk about today is that not all supernatural power is created equal, right? And in fantasy, there is usually some sort of magic or something like mystical like that. So the difference lies in the source, the purpose, and the impact. So that's what we want to talk about today. But first of all, you guys, why should Christian writers even care about whether or not why should they care about the Christian magic systems?
I think a lot of times there's going to be a visceral response internally, even to like the word magic, if you're a person of faith, because your brain might translate the word magic into Doug Henning or, sleight of hand, David Copperfield type people, or your mind might go directly to witchcraft. And if you are the latter, your conscience might just rebel at the idea that there could be magic in a book. And so I think that the reason you should care is because you want to, not go against your conscience. You don't want to do something that you feel is dishonoring to God.
Agreed.
And whether we like it or not, fiction shapes beliefs, which is why, as a parent, when my kids were small, I was discerning about what fiction I let them consume, because it does shape what they believe. And so if you care about what you're putting out into the world, then you should care about what you put into your book.
Yeah, because readers, especially young readers, might not be able to make differentiate between fantasy power and what real world spirituality is like.
I mean, let's face it, adults sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In this world of new age beliefs, and the idea that I can be a good witch kind of situation, which, because I live in near the inner city and we've ministered in the inner city, like I run into that a lot more often than you would think. That would even like you would be shocked.
Well, it isn't surprising to me. I mean, because there's lots of biblical examples of this. I mean, you think back to like Moses versus the Egyptians magicians. You know, the Egyptians dealt with magic, but it was again that was an imitation, right? And against the true, power from God. So
Right.
that's yep. Okay, so what the question that we are talking about is, where does your character's power come from, and does it reflect the nature of God? So let's start with the heart of the episode now, the practical and the theological. So number one, or so we're gonna ask. We came up with some questions that we think as writers that you should think about if you're writing fantasy. So what is the first question that we think that as writers we should question?
The source. What is the source of power? And a lot of times, especially in high fantasy, there's two different sources of power. There's the good source and the evil source.
Mm-hmm. And it's important that you know that like the like where the source comes from, right? Because if you have it, no, let's stop right here for a second, and we need to make sure we point out, because we're going to have some people not happy with us. But we're talking about Christian fiction. If you are a Christian and you write fantasy, but you're not trying to market it as Christian fantasy, then you could possibly get away with your good characters having a magic system that disagrees with what we're going to say right now. Where we are coming from is from a perspective of, you are a Christian writer and you want to market Christian fantasy. So I
To
want to say that
Christian
first.
readers who have expectations.
Who have expectations, because that's your boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Tina said, what's the source of the power in your world? And she just said that there's, your good guys and your bad guys. So talk about that a little bit more, Tina.
Okay, well, I could use my current work in progress as an example of, I have a bad guy in my book who gets his source from Satan, from Satan. He has satanic source of power, and he does there's like sacrifices and rituals and altars and all that. And that is fine as long as it's clear that that is the antagonistic characters,
right,
that are involved in this evil kind of power that is forbidden in the Bible.
right.
So they're doing something forbidden, bad guys, and then I have my good guys who get their power from the Holy Spirit living within them. It doesn't always have to be that. That's what my book is. But you could have like a high fantasy with dragons, and then you have like the evil source and the good source. And so it's kind of is symbolic. It's more symbolic than actual. Like I'm trying to mimic the actual reality that we live in today, as far as the source of good and evil.
And we're going to talk about the real world versus, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Right.
But yeah.
But in a high epic fantasy, it's not going to mimic our real world faith, but it's going to be symbolic of it.
Jamie?
I was just going to say that a common trope I see, and again, please forgive me, because I'm not thinking in the lines of Christian books or movies that I've seen. I'm just kind of saying it always seems like there's a bad guy who has stolen the almighty whatever, fill in the blank. And so now they have this power, but they have it illegitimately because they stole the power that is supposed to be used for good. And they've stolen this power so that they can use it for nefarious purposes. And I think that that's something you need to evaluate. Is the power inherited? Is it like a righteous power, or is it power that's been stolen for malfeasance or bad intent?
Agreed. We also talked about that we feel like it's important for you to know, how is the power used and for what ends. Like, are they using the power to restore, protect, and redeem, things that we would like equate with the good guys, or is it to dominate, to elevate themselves? to destroy things, which we would equate with the bad guys. So.
Well, it's so interesting, though. And really, I am not trying to start a debate or stir the pot, but I feel like most people, when they talk about, but I am a good witch, they would say that they have good intentions for the power and that it therefore justifies it, but what we're saying is that doesn't necessarily make it Christian, right? Is that the differentiation that we're making? Like, you can call something good witchcraft, but Christian readers aren't going to like that.
Yes. And I think we're going to get to that a little bit later too, specifically, but exactly. Like, by answering these questions, like what is the source of the power? Is the power a gift, or is it like stolen or taken by force? How is the power used and for what ends? And then finally, what's the cost or consequences of using the power? Is there any sort of moral weight to using it? Answering those questions first. And then you go into the next step is you start talking about like, how, now that I'm looking at this magic and I kind of answering these questions, now how do I form a Christian magic system that is a faith-based one, right?
Okay.
So number one, we said the spiritual gifting model. Now, Jamie kind of alluded to this earlier about, where does it come from? Is it a gift or is it stolen? But let's talk about spiritual gifting model first. What does that mean?
Well, it's the gifts given to us by our higher power. I obviously, as a Bible study teacher, my mind immediately goes to the gifts of the Spirit. And so some of the common ones that you see in Christian fantasy, healing. That's spiritual, one of the gifts of the Spirit. Prophecy.
Yep.
It's a gift of the Spirit. So there's a lot of things that, and I don't know if we say this later, but I want to say this here too. When I, as a Christian fantasy author, I see the world's magic system as an umbrella term. And so I'm not thinking of magic in the same way as a lot of people are thinking of magic. I'm thinking of it as like the power,
like a genre,
like the supernatural power that the characters have. There's a system for that in your book if you're writing fantasy. And so like the literary term is your magic system. But in my mind, it's more of a gifting than a magic. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. It feels like it's like more of a genre or a category, or like when you say umbrella term, it's just kind of a catch-all for where reality meets the supernatural. And what I think is interesting is if you ever look at quantum physics and those talk spaces, they're getting more and more to where scientifically it's going to be acknowledged that there is, a spirit realm and things that we don't see that are forces that act upon our natural world. And so anyway, I'm trying to add to the conversation and kind of affirm what you're saying, Tina.
Okay, so that's spiritual gifting model. Number 2 is the prophetic power model. What is that?
Well, prophecy is basically a message from God. Like a lot of times we think of prophecy as predicting the future, but that's not always what prophecy is. A prophet speaks for God. He's like a conduit between God and the people, which is why there were a lot more prophets in the Old Testament, because God wasn't speaking directly to everybody because they didn't have the Holy Spirit indwelling them. And so and then you hear the "Thus saith the Lord" kind of thing. And so that wasn't always predictive of the future. Sometimes it was a condemnation or a judgment. Like a lot of times it was a judgment on Israel for the fact that they hadn't been faithful to God. And thus saith the Lord, you have been like a harlot, or, that's a paraphrase of a whole bunch of different verses in the Old Testament. And so like in fantasy, you get a lot of like, this is the prophetic child. The child that is the answer to the prophecy. Like that's a lot of things. I see a lot of books like that, like the chosen one kind of thing always comes out of some kind of prophecy. Or it could be like this horrible thing's going to happen. It's been prophesied, but if your protagonist does what they're destined to do, that prophecy can be avoided. Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds very much familiar. Rings a bell for a lot of movies and plot lines for sure.
Right. Yeah. All right. And number 3, the covenantal power model. What is that?
Well, that's what we all have. Like, if we're a Christian and we have the Holy Spirit living within us, we have made a covenant with Jesus Christ. And through that covenant, we get power. We get the fruits of the Spirit and we get the gifts of the Spirit.
But
and
in a magic right, but
right.
in a magic setting and in a fantasy novel, it's like that. So it's like the power like flows through like relationships. Like I've made a covenant with like, because marriage is a covenant. It could be something that like 2 characters, when they're together and they make like a pact, then that the power comes. Or
right. And the one that comes to my mind the most, because I read this the most in fantasy, is the stories where there's a dragon, and then there's the dragon's person, and they have a mental, emotional, spiritual connection with their dragon, so they can feel what the dragon is feeling. They can see what the dragon is seeing. They can understand what the dragon is thinking, and vice versa. So I would say that's like a covenantal. And so because they have this connection with their dragon, there's certain things like they have supernatural strength, maybe, or they can see, like the dragon can fly above the world, and they can see through the dragon's eyes and see what's going on, or like something like that.
Right. And then forgive me if I'm wrong about this, because really I only know Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, which they will forever be known to me as, the original 3. So like, wouldn't you argue that like the Force would be kind of like a relationship or covenant? Like if you're on the dark side, you don't have the power of the Force, or you can use it nefariously. Like, I don't even know, but like, is that an example of what we're talking about?
Yeah, I would think so, because of the like Chlorian, like that has to be like those little beings that you never see have to work with those that have the Force. And so yeah, I would think that would be an example. And I think this is a good place for us to like also like stop and say that like you don't have to call it magic. I know we're calling it magic here, and we're gonna go in a little bit detail this later, but like you can use terms that fit your novel. You can call it the gifting, or like the Force, or the voice, the light. I mean, there's whatever works in your book. But that is like, but it magic is kind of like the overall, doesn't mean that we're talking witchcraft. We had this conversation in our planning meeting, because we would not support or encourage you to use witchcraft if you want to write a Christian novel that you are going to then market to Christian readers, because that would be a big no-no for them. Which
I should caveat that by saying that if there's witchcraft in your book, it has to be the evil side. It has to be the bad guys. Having a good character who's a good witch is probably not going to go over well with Christian readers. And as an example of that, you can go back to the 90s when I was raising my children and Harry Potter came out, and the vast numbers of Christian parents who would not let their children watch it or read it because of the way that it treated witchcraft as something to be desired.
So this is a great transition into, we want to talk about theological red flags in your Christian magic system. So the first thing is power acquired through incantations, ritual sacrifice, spiritual invocations, anything like that. So anything that is like witchcraft, things like that, you need to make sure that you can use it, but not if it's going to be your good guys, right? If you're writing to a Christian audience, because that is a red flag for Christian readers, right?
And I don't know when we had this in the outline to say this, but I feel like we need to say this now. There's no longer any publishing gatekeepers to say this doesn't qualify. Our gatekeepers are our readers. And so what we really are saying to you is these are the reader expectations.
Yeah.
As consumers of Christian fantasy, they're looking for this and not this. And so, like, we're self-published. We could do whatever we want. We could break all these rules and publish a book. But are you going to get backlash from your readers? Like, that's kind of
right. I can walk around naked in my yard. I mean, it's my yard, but I'm probably going to get backlash from my neighbors.
Oh gosh.
No worries, friends. It's not happening.
Let me take a drink of coffee because something totally inappropriate came into my head.
I think something else you have to think about is like if there's no consequences, that's a red flag. So like if you can do these magical practices or have this power and it's not really good, it's not really evil, it's just kind of like there's an ambivalency about it. The Christian audience is not going to be a fan, really.
Right.
Morality matters.
Right. I absolutely agree. And here's the other thing. You guys know how I'm always kind of harping on arc, right? But the power should always serve the story's arc, the redemptive arc, right? It should not distract from it. So if it's going to distract from it, then you maybe want to rethink how it's going to go. All right. So we've given lots of ideas but let's talk about some real examples. So if you want Christian fantastical magic, we hinted at this earlier, then our biggest advice to you is it has to be in another world. So let's talk about what that means. What do we mean about that?
Well, if you're talking about the actual world that we live in and you're setting it in like reality, grounded reality, just like where you are sitting right now, you're going to have like the Christian God and Satan or whatever, good and evil. But if you go into another world where there's possibly like a whole made up creation from your mind where it's not Christianity and Satan, it's like some other thing that you're constructing. That's what we're talking about, right?
Right. Exactly.
All right.
What are some examples? Tina, you got any examples?
Well, there's a series by Ted Decker called The Books of the Mortals.
Mm-hmm.
And the first book starts out where there's these little vials of blood and people drink these vials of blood and it's supposed to give them eternal life, but they're actually dead. They're like the Walking Dead. And so then this guy discovers this secret thing and there's portals to other like versions of their world. And there's all these books they have to collect. And forgive me if I'm getting multiple series mixed up in the same one, because this is what I remember from like 10 years ago when I read it. But like to me, like this is a completely fantastical world, although there are people and it seems like there's cars and like they go to Las Vegas at one point. But the idea, like the biblical idea of us being dead, spiritually dead, until we have the Holy Spirit living within us, which brings us to life. Like that whole theme is in this completely fantastical idea about people drinking vials of blood in it, making them immortal.
So it looks like it's in our world, but it's not really in our world. Right.
It's actually another like dimension within our world.
Right. So a full-on example, in my opinion, of one that is in a totally different world would be like the Lord of the Rings. I think this is a perfect example because he never mentions God, Jesus, but there's all the symbolism, right? And someone could argue with the things we just said that, well, there are good witches in that. Okay, so he uses the word witch, but it's not exactly witchcraft as far as for the good guys. It's a whole totally different world with a whole other magical system. But if you go back and listen to the things we said, he follows that. There are like rules to like how the power is attained and how it is used and how it represents God in it. So and again, it's not in our world. It is in a whole nother world. Just like the Chronicles of Narnia, a whole nother thing. Like they are in our world, but then they step through this portal and go into another world, and that's where the magic is, right? That's where the different, yeah. So, but what if we wanted to write fantasy in our world? How would that look, Tina?
Well, an example of that is Frank Peretti's book, This Present Darkness, probably one of the most famous Christian fantasy books that I know of. Like they made it into a movie and everything. And in This Present Darkness, there's like the mundane, there's the chapters flip back and forth between the real world and the spiritual world. So you start out in like the real world, small town, middle America, little, young pastor with a little church in this little town. And the things that happen with the people in the town. And so the one thing that's stuck in my head, and I read this book like 30 years ago, maybe, and I've reread it several times because it's just that good. It was like the real world chapter had this one of the characters in his pickup truck go to the liquor store, get a 12-pack of beer, come out of the liquor store, go back to his truck, pull out and leave. And then there's some other stuff happening like around him in that chapter. But there was like a paragraph where he described that. In the next chapter, you see the demon that is like almost lizard-like, and it has these big, long, clawed feet, and it's perched on the guy's shoulders. And
so you see the same scene from the spiritual world.
Right. So he's coming out of the liquor store. The demon is perched on his shoulders, and he's got these long talons on his like bony lizard-like arms, and those talons are like he has his hand on the guy's head, and the talons are going through his brain and coming out the other side of his head. And this is the demon of alcoholism.
So that's a very vivid example of what we want to say about in the real world. If you're going to write in the real world, it cannot have like magical like elements and still be the real world. You need to have it be the spiritual world. So your fantasy, if you're going to write fantasy, but it be in our world, you need to have it more biblically obvious and it be based on scripture instead of just be like, like having, I'm trying to think of like, you can't have orcs in our real world. You would have to have demons that that you can look at and scripturally like match it to the Bible. We have to move fast, but I want to say one more thing. I do also think that there is a level. So there's like fantasy world, there's real world fantasy. And I think there's like a hybrid. And so I think that some people might argue with us and say, no, you can have magic in the real world because you think about books that are like shapeshifters or books that like, this is happening over here and, not everybody can see it. That's what I would call it hybrid, because if there is a part of our world that other people can't see, that's the fantasy world, right? Mm-hmm. Again, you cannot, if you're going to do fantasy and it not be the spiritual world, then it ends up being something that's another world, not just our world. So there's so much more we could say about this. And unfortunately, we are out of time. So if you have arguments against this or you just want to chat about it, head on over to our Facebook group. If you're not a member, the link is in the show notes, but we can continue this conversation over there. But it is time for us to move on to the feeding of the backs. For those of you that are new, every week we choose a writing prompt and all three of us write to the same prompt. We spend 15 minutes writing. We don't edit. We don't even look at them again before we share them live here on the podcast. So, Jamie, I'm going to start with you and ask you to read what the prompt is and what you wrote.
Sure. One moment while I fish it out here. I will tell you, I should have had it ready. My bad.
It's okay. You want me to share the prompt while you're...
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, so today's prompt was a sentence. It's the second Friday of the month, so it's a sentence. And the sentence was, in this world, faith doesn't just move mountains, it builds them.
And I started my piece with it, so isn't that funny? Okay, so That's awesome. We go. In this world, faith doesn't just move mountains, it builds them. There was a smattering of applause and shouts of amen from the audience. I rolled my eyes and pressed the mute button. Immediately, Mama's voice floated to me from the back of the trailer. You turn Johnny back up now. Go on. I sighed and pressed the mute button again, but moved out of the family room and into the kitchen, not because I was hungry, but in an effort to escape the ridiculous hyperbole that filled the double wide. I plopped 2 pieces of bread directly on the counter, a move I wouldn't dare to make if Mama could see, and smiled as I spun the bread bag shut and put it back on top of the microwave. I threw bologna and cheese on top of one slice, grabbed up the mustard, and hesitated as I reached for the Miracle Whip. I've always been a big fan of Miracle Whip, but man, were my joints on fire. I left the jar where it was, closed the refrigerator door, and turned to look at my sandwich. Without taking a bite, I knew it would be too dry, and the mustard I applied would come off too sharp and severe without the ameliorating effect of the sandwich spread. So, sighing, I went back into the icebox for the good stuff. I tried the lid. Nothing. I wondered if Mama had some kind of gadget she used to help with jars. I called to her and got no response. Good old Johnny was drowning out my calls for help. I stomped back into the family room. Mama, I said, giving the blasted lid one final angry turn, my knuckles screaming in protest. You got something that can help me open this blasted freedom, shouted the TV preacher. Something that felt like a bolt of lightning tore through my hand, and I felt the jar's lid spinning. In an instant, it was separated from the jar and in my right hand. I screamed more out of surprise than pain. The TV congregation erupted in cheers and applause. I turned to face Mama's big screen and the subtly smirking pastor. Praise God, he muttered on repeat. Mama, meanwhile, her hair half up in curlers, came thumping into the room. I turned to face her, unable to speak. What's all this hollering about? I couldn't answer. My God, Tammy, I thought you was kilt the way you... She spotted the Miracle Whip. You making a sandwich? She pointed an accusing finger at me. You'd better be using a plate is all I got to say. Then she disappeared back into her bedroom.
Ah, such a great description. Like, okay, first of all, I love Miracle Whip. I know that outside of Michigan, people think we're crazy and like that mayo's, and I like my mayo too, but there's just something about a bologna sandwich with Miracle Whip. And I'm also lots of questions for mostly like why are her joints hurting and how does Miracle Whip affect that? Like, that's a question I have. Oh,
there's a lot of sugar in Miracle Whip.
She can't open the jar, so that's why. Because her joints. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so okay, so that was my whole thing was like she's obviously young enough to be living with her mom. So what's the story with this girl?
She doesn't live there. She's visiting.
How did I miss that part?
I didn't say it. All I'm saying is like that's the information that like in my head I knew that. So I'm just answering the question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Like I can see it. I can see everything happen. The mom with her curlers half up. Like I remember back in the day, all of our moms probably had short hair and everyone had their hair done or they did curlers. And like my kids had never seen that, you know what I mean? Because we just don't do that anymore. So like it definitely set a time period. I feel like I've been very nostalgic recently anyway, with Lonnie Anderson passing away. I don't know. I'm not like I was a huge fan, but the show she was on was kind of one of those shows that like it just reminds me of childhood. Right. So your story like has put me there. Like, I feel like it's either like in my childhood or it is past that, but they still kind of live in that era. Like people,
I think it's that era, but the adults that were in that era. So it's like an adult daughter visiting her mother. In my imagination, they're going somewhere, probably to lunch, which is why she shouldn't even be making a sandwich. But then it was gonna be mayonnaise until I'm like, Miracle Whip is better because it's like this miracle. Anyway, I really enjoyed this piece.
Yeah, I love that whole part. The whole miracle thing, the way you word it, the timing of it, and like how it was just so perfect. The freedom, like so good, Jamie.
Appreciate
I love
that.
it. Yeah.
I have to also say that Miracle Whip, especially for bologna sandwiches, tuna salad, it has to be Miracle Whip. And isn't it funny how we put our own context on things when you don't have all the information? Because like I have joint pain and sugar makes it worse. So I try to avoid things with sugar in them. And so in my mind, she was avoiding the Miracle Whip because it would just make her joint pain worse.
Very nice. Very nice. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So, and the whole miracle thing with the lid coming off at the moment he yelled freedom, that was just gold.
I appreciate that.
All right, I'll go next. I got nowhere near what I needed to get near. Like I kind of wrote super slow at the beginning, and anyways, it just like I'm heading somewhere and getting anywhere close to it. Widows of the West 2. Charlotte sat down across the table from Maddie. She picked up a bean and began snapping. The two sat in companionable silence as they worked, for which Charlotte was grateful. She wasn't ready to talk about what Maddie had just witnessed, mostly because she didn't know quite what to think about it herself. But Maddie didn't ask and seemed just as happy as Charlotte to act as if it hadn't happened. You know how to break beans. It was a statement more than a question, but Charlotte answered, "Yes'm," anyway. A small smile played at the corner of Maddie's mouth. "What?" Charlotte asked. Maddie shrugged. "Nothing. I just didn't expect you to know how. Most women with your upbringing didn't spend too much time in the kitchen." It was Charlotte's turn to shrug. "No mystery about it. Our housemaid took a liking to me, I guess. I spent a lot of time with her as a child." They returned to their silent work for a while until Charlotte spoke again. "You remind me of her," she said. "What's that?" "You remind me of her, my Nettie." Maddie nodded as she worked through her pile of green beans. "I suppose all us Negroes look alike to you all." Charlotte stopped snapping beans and stared at the other woman with her mouth agape. That's not at all what I meant. Now don't get all riled up. I'm not offended. I'm used to it. Well, for your information, the two of you couldn't look less alike. Natty was taller and a mite heavier, and her skin was far darker than yours, smooth and chocolatey. But her eyes, 3, 2, 1. As far as I got. Oops, Jamie, you're muted.
Where were you hoping that you could get?
I want to get to the point where she starts to talk a little bit about Nettie and the details of Nettie, and then I want Maddie to talk about how most white folk don't really look at them, and the fact that Charlotte has great details about Nettie, tells you that they did have more of a relationship than her just taking a liking to her, is kind of where I'm getting to. So
I have a lot of
slowly
questions.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have a whole conversation about this, not on the podcast, because I have questions about like this whole series, which whatever, but like this was a great start to that. And I always appreciate that it's almost like she's trying to put her past behind her because she has to, but it's like other characters just keep bringing up like, "Oh, I thought you were fancy," and she's just kind of like, "I want to be fancy, stop talking." Like, it would be so frustrating to me if I was forced to adapt to a less than lifestyle and everyone kept reminding me how I used to have it made. Would just make me crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
I really love this segment because like she's starting to build this relationship with Maddie.
Mm-hmm.
And she has this history of this relationship with Nettie, and I can see where you're going with where like it's their personalities, it's the way that they care for her that they have in common, and I think that's awesome.
And they see her in a way that the people around her don't see her.
Right.
So,
yeah, because isn't that everybody's like deepest desire, to be seen and to be known and to be loved anyway?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yep, I appreciate that. Every story I have, there's usually a wise sage. And normally they're men for some reason. Like in my first book, it was the butler. The second book, it was, I don't know, anyways, doesn't matter. I don't have to list them all out. But I believe that in the second book of this series, it's going to be Miss Maddie. So
I love
all right, Tina.
Before Tina reads, I just want to say bye, not to be rude, but I have to dip out at 11. Yep. So I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thanks, Jamie.
Bye.
Okay. Just like Jamie, I started my sprint with the quote.
All right.
But I went a little bit different direction than her. So I'm going to have to make this bigger or take my glasses off. Let me see what In this world, faith doesn't just move mountains, it builds them. What in the world does that even mean? Jenna looked at Ralph, her eyebrows furrowed. He'd been giving her wordy, almost poetic answers for the whole 10 minutes they'd been talking. Some of the other guys had been eloquent, some even poetic, but nobody had come off as completely fake, as if they were reading their answers off a screen. It was disappointing. It's disappointing, really. His dark hair with just a hint of curl was just so charming. And those eyes, the color of the sky in springtime. Then she saw the light reflecting off his glasses. vertical, rectangular light. He looked up from his lap, took a deep breath, smiled, his eyes looking up to and to the right, and began to speak. That's a great question. It's a poetic and metaphorical quote, and at first glance, it can sound confusing or contradictory, especially because it plays on the well known biblical phrase, faith can move mountains. Jenna held her hand out, palm up. Give it to me, she demanded. What? Jenna watched the panic steal over Ralph's face. Your phone. Give me your phone. What? No, I'm not giving you my phone. I mean, this is speed dating. Checking my phone is like long term stuff. Then put it on the table, screen down. She pulled her own phone from her purse and set it face down on the table. He slowly did the same. Redness crawled up his neck and into his face. Now, she tried to smile encouragingly. Without the help of ChatGPT, tell me what your faith means to you.
Yay! Oh, Tina, I love it. I love the speed dating. How fun is that? Like, this is why I love the sprints. Like, we all three had the same prompt, and our stories went in such different directions, but yours was hilarious. It made me laugh. Like, that's so funny. Like, at first, I just thought he was just, like getting it from somewhere, but using Chat GPT in there, that was great. I loved it.
I actually saw, I don't know, one of those reels or something where guys were using ChatGPT to do pickup lines.
It can't be any worse than the ones I got in college. So
Yeah, right. And so, yeah. And I actually put, what in the world does this even mean? And put our prompt into ChatGPT and copied and pasted their reply for his reply to her question. So that actually came from ChatGPT.
Oh, fun. That's so fun. Yeah, I love it. So, all right, awesome. Well, Jamie's not here to tell us what's next. So I'll start with you, Tina. What's next for you?
The girls and I are going camping this weekend.
Yay.
So hopefully it's sunny and we can go to the beach and go swimming. So looking forward to that. We're
So
actually
no
an
writing for you.
actual girls' night, no token. My husband doesn't have to be a token girl, which I'm sure he's just ecstatic about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, for me, I am still trudging along with website issues and getting together my emails that I'm going to get ready to send to my ARC team and planning for the launch. So that's where I'm at in my career.
Wow,
So
that's exciting.
If you'd like to share with us your what's next and read everybody else's, go on over to our Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. Also, don't forget that if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. Also, we do have a Patreon. It's mostly just support us. We do have a live Q&A, which will be this coming Tuesday, that has actually turned into kind of like a writer's salon because we really don't have any answers, let's be honest. But we would love for you to join us. It's not very much money. It's less than the cost of a Starbucks coffee. So if you'd like to join us, please go to our Patreon, which is also linked in the show notes. But until next time, may your pen be prolific and may your deadlines be met. May all of your words honor Christ. Bye, everyone.
Bye.